All right, so today we're back again listening to Reddit stories. And while we do that, I'm going to work on setting up some storage. Maybe even try to turn this place into something that actually feels like a home. Nothing too crazy, just something calm, something familiar. So let's get started. My roommate thought our Wi-Fi bill went up because we were using too much Google. Let's call my roommate Kevin. Living with Kevin has honestly felt like a social experiment no one approved. I knew he was a little off when we first moved in, but I didn't realize how deep it went until the great Wi-Fi incident of last month. So our internet bill went up by like $12. It was annoying, but not the end of the world. I assumed the company raised rates like they always do. But Kevin? No. Kevin storms into the living room holding the bill like we had committed a crime. He goes, dead serious, "Which one of you keeps using too much Google? They're charging us extra." I thought he was joking. I laughed. Big mistake. He doubled down and starts listing internet-heavy activities he's noticed. Me watching videos while cooking, our other roommate playing music, someone downloading a big PDF that one time. He even said, "And you guys always have so many tabs open. That stuff adds up." This man genuinely believed the Wi-Fi company charges per Google search, like some kind of data utility meter. He kept saying, "We need to limit our browsing. No unnecessary internet after 8 p.m. I swear I almost lost it trying not to laugh. The funniest part? Kevin watches high-res videos every night and streams games until 3 a.m. But somehow, we were the problem. When we explained how internet plans actually work, he got defensive and said the companies change the prices based on vibe levels. I still don't know what that means. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to actually budget like an adult, track spending, and build my credit back up. But Kevin? Kevin thinks the Wi-Fi bill is basically a mood ring. I honestly don't know how he survived this long. And that's the story we got about Kevin. While we were chopping some wood, I figured we'd grab a little more, and that should be enough. But for now, let's move on to the second story. I prayed to a Greek goddess as a joke, and it actually worked. So this happened about a year and a half ago, during the summer. I had just dropped out of university and was struggling to find a stable job to pay the bills, picking up short contracts in museum gift shops here and there when they needed someone to cover for an employee on leave. Sometimes I worked 7 days a month, so times were tough. In parallel, one of my best friends, who had just graduated, needed a permanent job contract quickly so she could renew her visa. She'd just had an interview with a company offering decent pay and tons of benefits. We were talking about our employment adventures and our serious need for luck when I joked, "Hey, maybe we should pray to Tyche, the Greek goddess of fortune, for some luck." For context, my friend and I, mostly me, are huge Greek mythology fans, so this wasn't completely random. Then I thought, why not? What do we have to lose? I grabbed a candle, a lighter, and some bread, lit the candle, tossed a piece of bread in it, and bent over like, "Hey Tyche, here's the thing. My friend just had an interview and really, really needs that job. So if you wanted to give fate a little push, that would be amazing. Also, my life's a bit rough right now, so if you have some extra luck to spare, that would be very appreciated." "Okay, thanks, bye." And I blew out the candle. End of the joke. Literally the next day, I got 2 phone calls. The first was from the museum HR director, offering me a full-time 3-month contract and scheduling an interview for a permanent position I was interested in. The second was from my grandmother, who had spontaneously decided to send me 500 euros so I could have a less stressful summer while looking for a job. 2 days later, my friend texted me that she got the job, meaning she no longer had to worry about her visa status. Needless to say, Tyche got another piece of bread and an enthusiastic thank you. Meanwhile, our storage walls are already going up. Once the storage itself is built, I'll be putting signs on the chests so everything in my house is neatly organized. But for now, let's move on to the third story. My ex-husband left me to marry another woman. Before taking his whole family to prepare for the wedding, he sent a text. "When we get back, this house won't be yours anymore." I stared at the message, then quietly made my own choice. A few days later, they returned, only to find the land. My ex-husband left me to marry another woman. Before taking his whole family to prepare for the wedding, he sent a text. "When we get back, this house won't be yours anymore." I stared at the message, then quietly made my own choice. A few days later, they returned, only to find the land completely bare. No house, no fence, no sign of anything. Their excitement evaporated. All they could whisper was, "Where did it all go?" I sat in my car, lowered the window, watched their panic, and smiled. When Daniel left me, he didn't leave quietly. He packed his suitcases with the self-importance of a man convinced he deserved more and walked out the door without looking back. A week later, he announced his engagement to Sophia, a woman he had apparently been seeing long before our divorce was even finalized. I wasn't surprised. Betrayal rarely comes alone. It usually brings arrogance. But what truly shook me wasn't his leaving. It was the message he sent right before taking his entire family to another state to prepare for the wedding. When we get back, this house won't be yours anymore. Just that. No explanation, no courtesy, not even the pretense of fairness. I stared at the text for a long minute, my hands steady, my pulse strangely calm. Daniel had always believed that intimidation was a form of communication, and for years, I let him think it worked. But this time, I made a different choice. The house, my house, stood on a plot of land left to me by my grandmother. Daniel had contributed nothing to its construction except criticism. Still, I knew exactly what his text meant. He had manipulated some legal loophole, likely twisting my earlier trust into paperwork I had signed too quickly. His confidence in his own schemes was almost insulting, as if I hadn't learned anything from a decade beside him. So while he was gone, I hired a crew. Not a demolition crew. Daniel would have expected that. No, I hired structural movers, specialists who could lift an entire house and transport it elsewhere. It cost nearly everything in my savings, but it was legal, clean, and most importantly, poetic. On the morning before they were scheduled to return, the land stood empty. No house, no fence, nothing but bare soil and an unfamiliar stillness. I parked my car down the road and waited, hands wrapped around a lukewarm coffee. Their cars arrived in a small parade of celebration, until the moment they saw the empty lot. Doors flung open, voices rose, confusion tangled with panic. Daniel's mother gasped, his brother cursed, and Daniel himself just stood there, staring at the barren ground as if someone had removed his future brick by brick. Then he whispered, barely audible, "Where did it all go?" I lowered my car window slowly and smiled. The first person to spot me was Claire, Daniel's sister. Her expression shifted from disbelief to accusation within a heartbeat. "Is this your doing?" she demanded, pointing at the empty land like it had personally offended her. I stepped out of the car, placing my sunglasses neatly on the roof. "The land is still here," I said calmly. "Only the house is gone." Daniel stalked toward me, jaw clenched. "You can't do this, Emily. This is illegal." "Actually," I replied, handing him a neatly folded set of documents, "it isn't. The house belongs to me. The land belongs to me. And the paperwork you tricked me into signing only transferred your claim to the land. Claim, not ownership. Since there's no land here for you to take, you're claiming nothing." His face turned red, then pale, then something between the two. He scanned the papers with trembling hands. "You moved the whole house? You said it wouldn't be mine when you got back," I said, shrugging. "So I made sure it wouldn't be here at all." The truth was simpler than the drama implied. I had spent days preparing the move, relocating the house to a new plot of land I purchased under my maiden name. It was tucked safely in a quiet town an hour away. I planned to renovate it, repaint it, and give myself a fresh start. Not out of spite, but out of liberation. But watching Daniel's fury twist into helplessness, I would be lying if I said it wasn't satisfying. His father stepped forward, calmer but no less angry. "You destroyed our family's plans." "Your plans," I corrected gently, "not mine." Sophia, dressed far too elegantly for a return trip, stood beside Daniel, clutching his arm. "This is childish," she hissed. "You've ruined everything." I tilted my head. If everything can be ruined by the absence of a house, maybe it wasn't much of a forever to begin with. Silence fell over them, heavy, bitter, honest. I got back into my car, started the engine, and rolled the window down one last time. "You should talk to your lawyer," I suggested kindly. "He'll explain how loopholes work both ways." Then I drove off, leaving the empty land and the people who never valued me behind with the rest of the debris I no longer carried. The drive to my new property felt strangely light, like shedding an old skin. The house, my house, was already being settled onto its new foundation when I arrived. The crew greeted me warmly, proud of their work. Watching the structure lower into place felt like placing a final piece in a long, unfinished puzzle. Inside, dust still clung to the furniture, and the floors creaked from the move, but it felt more like a fresh chapter than a disruption. I opened all the windows, letting sunlight pour in. For the first time in years, I breathed without tension pressing against my ribs. Over the next few days, I repainted the living room, replaced old curtains, and rearranged the furniture. Every stroke of the brush felt symbolic, not of revenge, but of reclaiming space that had been gradually shrinking under Daniel's shadow. Friends who knew the whole story visited one afternoon, bringing wine and wide-eyed curiosity. "You really moved the whole house?" Jenna asked, still in awe. "Yes," I said, pouring glasses. "Turns out it's easier to relocate a house than to live with someone who thinks they own you." We laughed, and I realized how long it had been since laughter felt natural. I received 3 text messages from Daniel over the next week. The first, angry. The second, pleading. The third, bitter resignation. I didn't reply to any of them. Silence, I discovered, was its own form of closure. One evening, as I sat on the front porch watching the sun sink behind the trees, I thought back to that moment on the empty lot, watching their shock ripple through the air. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was clarity. I had spent so many years believing endurance was a virtue. But sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away and take everything that belongs to you, including your peace. Now, my house sits on a hill overlooking quiet streets. I planted a small garden out front, and every new sprout reminds me that starting over isn't destruction, it's growth. And maybe that's why I chose to share this story. Not to encourage revenge, but to remind someone, anyone reading this, that you're allowed to take back your life, even if it means moving the entire foundation of it. All right, now we're going to work on our little garden behind the house. I'll still need to get some water, but for now, here's the 4th story. Nature taking care of my problems. So I rent an apartment in a complex where each unit gets 1 reserved parking spot. Mine is right in front of my building. Super convenient. A new guy moved in a few months ago and immediately started parking in my spot. First time, honest mistake, right? I left a nice note. Second time, okay, maybe forgetful. Another note, slightly less nice. Third time, dude knows how to read. I finally confronted him. He gave me the biggest eye roll and said, "Parking is communal, get over it." Which it very much is not. The numbers are literally painted on the ground. So every time I got home and he was in my spot, I'd go to the leasing office. And if they were closed, I'd just park in visitor parking like a chump. Then one day, a miracle opportunity presented itself. A huge flock of birds had been gathering in the giant tree above his favorite illegal parking spot. They'd been doing their business on everything underneath. I noticed that if I parked just 1 spot over, my car was safe, but his would be directly under the feathered doom zone. So I started parking slightly differently, every day. The birds did not disappoint. His car went from silver to Jackson Pollock, but worse. He washed it. It happened again, and again. The man was living in a constant state of avian warfare. Finally, he knocked on my door, looking tragic. Him. "Do you know why the birds only poop on my car?" Me. "Maybe they think parking is communal." The next day, he stopped parking in my spot. The birds returned to their normal schedule. I have never been so proud of Mother Nature. Thank you for watching my video. Have a great evening. I look forward to seeing you again.